This case involves a shared apartment dispute seen in a popular courtroom show. Today's case is about a shared apartment that fell apart fast. 3 names on one lease. One roommate moves out early. The others say she abandoned her responsibility. She says the living situation became unbearable. They say rent doesn't disappear just because someone leaves. So the question is simple. Who is actually responsible for the rent? The plaintiff, Daniel Rivera, shared an apartment with his brother and the defendant, Emily Carter. All 3 signed the lease. The rent was split evenly between them. Emily paid the security deposit equal to 1 month's rent. She moved in hoping to live independently for the first time. But after just 2 months, she packed her things and moved out. Daniel says Emily owes rent for the remaining months of the lease. He claims she left without notice and forced him to cover her share. Daniel says he worked full-time and followed the lease rules. He insists there were no issues serious enough to justify moving out. From his point of view, a signed lease is a signed promise. Emily tells a very different story. She says she worked night shifts and returned home late almost every day. When she came back, she often found strangers inside the apartment. People she didn't know were sleeping in her bed. Sometimes she was locked out of her own room. She says there were frequent parties she never agreed to. She felt unsafe and exhausted. She says she tried to tolerate it, but the situation only got worse. Emily says she didn't move out for convenience. She didn't move in with a boyfriend. She didn't move to another city. She went back to her mother's home because she no longer felt comfortable where she was living. She also left her security deposit behind. She didn't demand it back. She says that money was the price she paid to leave safely. Daniel argues that none of this excuses her legal obligation. Her name was still on the lease. The landlord never released her, and rent was still due every month. He says that after Emily left, he had to cover her share on top of his own. He believes that burden should fall on her, not him. But when the details are examined closely, cracks begin to appear. Daniel's brother, who was also on the lease, was later incarcerated. The incarceration involved drugs. And while Daniel insists the apartment was calm, the reality suggests otherwise. People do not walk away from money without a reason. Emily left behind more than $1,000. She gained nothing financially by leaving. That matters. If Emily had simply changed her mind, she could have stayed and used her deposit. If she wanted an easy exit, she could have demanded her money back. She did neither. Instead, she removed herself from an environment she says felt unsafe. There is also the question of responsibility after a roommate moves out. When someone leaves a shared lease, the remaining tenants have options. They can find another roommate. They can renegotiate with the landlord. They can choose how to handle the situation. What they cannot do is live alone in the apartment and expect a former roommate to pay indefinitely. Daniel did not pursue rent from his brother after his incarceration. He does not plan to sue him in the future. Yet he expects Emily to carry a burden his own brother does not. That inconsistency matters. A lease creates responsibility, but it also requires reasonable behavior when living conditions cross the line into discomfort or fear. Walking away is not abandonment. It is self-preservation. Emily paid for the time she lived there. Her deposit covered her obligation. She did not owe rent for months. She did not occupy the apartment. The law does not reward inaction. Once Emily left, it became Daniel's responsibility to address the vacancy. Waiting until the lease was nearly over and then demanding payment is not reasonable. This case is not about technicalities. It is about fairness. Emily did not disappear. She did not avoid responsibility. She made a difficult choice and accepted a financial loss to protect herself. Daniel, on the other hand, chose to stay. He chose not to replace her, and he chose to shift that cost onto someone who no longer lived there. That is not how shared leases work. Judgment is for the defendant. No additional rent is owed. The security deposit remains forfeited. This case is closed. Sometimes the law is not about who signed first. It's about who acted reasonably when things went wrong.